Democrats are waiting for Donald Trump to apologize for his America First agenda. I think we can be pretty confident that's not going to happen. He's not backing down so far, not on the tariffs and not on Greenland, where Vice President J.D. Vance is heading tomorrow.
There was so much excitement around Usha's visit to Greenland this Friday that I decided that I didn't want her to have all that fun by herself, and so I'm going to join her. We want to reinvigorate the security of the people of Greenland because we think it's important to protecting the security of the entire world.
President Trump doubling down this week, saying he will go as far as we have to go on taking control of Greenland for international safety and, according to Energy Secretary Chris Wright, American safety.
Where we're going tomorrow is to a military base that's a U.S. base way up in northwestern Greenland. It's critical radar to see activity. If there are nuclear weapons coming at the United States, they're not coming across the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean. They're coming over the poles. So having northern monitoring for our strategic defense is critical. There's just much more activity in the Arctic these days from Russia and China. The U.S. should have a growing presence there.
Let's bring in Hoover Institution Senior Fellow Victor Davis-Hanson. Victor, always such a pleasure to see you. Americans voted for America First, and those paddling around the, I would say, the liberal sewage lagoon, and there are many here in the U.S. and everywhere else, they just don't seem to be able to, like, keep their heads above water, or if it's water.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows the facts. I mean, Canada's great screams and yells, and then they don't tell us why they only spend 1.37 on defense. They used to have the third largest Navy in the world. They had a whole beach at D-Day. So what's in it? They just want to freeload on us. They don't want to. They could build icebreakers. They could have joint projects. And why do they have to have a $63 billion annual surplus and asymmetrical tariffs if they're our best friend? Why don't we just say have 10 billion? Same thing with Mexico. Why do they have to have $175 billion surplus, $63 billion sent in remittances, and probably another 20 or 30 the cartels rake in from their illegal smuggling of fentanyl and things like that? So these were all asymmetrical, and Donald Trump comes in and says, I'm not asking for advantage, I just want to go back to near parity. But you people get frenzy and go crazy because you've had it so good. And they don't understand what normality is.
Victor, I want to ask you about Greenland. I've been thinking that maybe Denmark should have cut a deal with Trump during his first term when he raised this issue, because the people of Greenland obviously have been moving away, dissatisfied with their relationship with Denmark for a long time. But is he coming on a little strong here? Should there be a little more persuasion going on, as opposed to, I think, what might be seen in Greenland as kind of a heavy-handed effort by the United States?
Yeah, I think we can be a little bit more diplomatic, but Denmark was embarrassed because they're as part of the EU, they all lecture people on colonialism, imperialism, and then here they are in, far off in Europe with this huge colony that's part of North America, and which is closer to New York than it is to Copenhagen, and they have no means of protecting it at a contentious time, and all of a sudden now they're giving them $1 billion. I wonder why that happened. So I think Donald Trump is trying to say, let's have some type of concession where we can protect the space, air, and sea around Greenland. I don't think we're going to go in there and take over their country, but they're drifting toward autonomy. And if we were to play it smart and have bases but not too intrusive, I think we could acculturate them to be much closer than they are now to us.
And by the way, I'll push back on James just a little bit, Victor, because it is Vice President Vance who, as a half hillbilly myself, that is a peace offering that he's going, along with his lovely erudite wife, and then Secretary of Energy Wright. I mean, that's a just arms wide open delegation going to Greenland. But I wanted to move on really quickly. You published this amazing piece today calling out the Democrats for their profanity chic and terrorist porn, saying that they're destroying themselves while turning a blind eye to Tesla violence and cursing like sailors, that they just can't emotionally control themselves. And just listen to this.
I'm not a big swearer. I know my children are watching and other kids are watching, so I don't use profanity that way. But if you look at the studies on it, it's interesting. Profanity is often used to express anger. And I think it comes from an authentic place from my Democratic colleagues. They are trying to express their outrage about what's taking place in this full-blown attack on democratic institutions in the country. So I understand it. That's why a lot of the swear words have the cuss sound in them, because that is able to be a vehicle for people's emotional frustration.
No, it's orchestrated histrionics, and it's falling flat, Victor.
It's also a reflection, they're politically impotent and irrelevant. They don't have the White House, either branch of Congress. They don't have the Supreme Court. They lost the Electoral College. They lost the popular vote. Every one of the issues they ran on was 70-30 against them, or 60-40, or 80-20. And they're looking for leadership. They don't have it. So they came up with a obnoxious, obscene Jasmine Crockett, and she's in charge of street theater. And then they've got this judge, Rosenberg, and he was nobody, and now all of a sudden he wants to be some kind of insurrectionist judge that can stop the national security policy of the United States, and that's about it. And that leaves a little bit of vacuum to street theater and street rioting, attacking Tesla, swatting people's homes, overrunning the campus with pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist protesters. But I don't think they understand why they're doing all this. There's fundamental historic things that are in motion. If Donald Trump can cut $500 billion even, or $1 trillion, or he can get rough parity on trade, or he can stall the Ukrainian, get a ceasefire that might lead to a peace, or we can do something in the Middle East that eliminates these appendages of Iran. These are things that no one had ever even imagined were possible, and they're all in play right now. So the Democrats, they've missed the bus, and they don't realize we're in a historic time right now, and they're just incoherent and juvenile. You know, as a former father of 3 little babies, 40 years ago, when they're just like a kid that gets angry in the supermarket and kicks and lies on his back and screams and yells for attention.
But they stole our credit card because they ran our national interest that we pay annually from about $500 billion to $1.1 trillion in 4 years. That's what they did to us, took us to the brink of financial ruin.